Order the Tuesday, August 23rd, Town Council meeting at 7:01. From please rise to pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Everyone be seated. Item 4, proclamations and presentations, we have none. So we'll move on to item 5, which is public petitions, communication, public participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of town council with a 2-minute limit. If you're online, you can hit the raise hand function or *9. If you're in the audience, you can approach the table here. And just a reminder to state your name and address. All right.
Sit or stand, does it matter?
Either way, yeah, no, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay. Hi, Matilda Murray, 8 Lisa Lane. West Hartford, Mansfield, Goshen, Hartford, Danbury, Ridgefield, Middletown, Torrington, Bristol, Bethel, New Britain, Bridgeport, Enfield, Cornwall, New Haven, Stamford, Greenwich, Darien, Fairfield, Monroe, Shelton, Madison, Camden, East Hartford, Groton, Milford, Farmington, New London, South Windsor, Willimantic. What all these towns have in common? They have flown pride flags on town property. Tolland needs to get with times and make a small gesture. And please don't confuse it. It is only a gesture. More can be done, but gestures are important, especially after hateful acts are directed towards LGBT folks in town. A gesture shows a closeted person in Tolland is safe. It helps a queer person know the town has their back. LGBT plus folks are an identity, not a choice. We are not a special interest group or a club. I have heard some worry that if we fly this flag, things will happen. All of these other towns are doing it. This is the time to be brave for a group of citizens who feel a little more afraid of Tolland than before. So as a citizen of Tolland, as a parent, and as a long-time closeted and now out trans woman, I ask the council to change our town's flag policy to reflect today's time and show the much needed gesture to our town because your voices are amplified. So please be brave and amplify ours.
Thank you. We have Brenda Lucy on camera.
Thank you. Brenda Felucci for Laurel Ridge Road. I'd like to thank the town council for crafting the words in support of our LGBTQ+ neighbors, families, and friends. I believe it is vital that our leadership denounce the hate crimes, such as the vandalism to our signs. We need to be a community that surrounds every neighbor, every member, and lets them know they are valued. We need to denounce hate crimes and destruction of property and vandalism quickly, swiftly. I believe it is time to put your words into action. We need to ensure that the residents of our town know not only that we denounce these hate crimes, but that we are a welcoming and affirming community to all members. We know that members of our community have faced unfair and hurtful discrimination and ridicule just because they are being their true selves. It's time to put our words into action. It's time to eliminate the flag policy. If you do not take these steps or try to justify your refusal with a but or will make people uncomfortable, you should know that you are standing on the side of the line with those who did these hurtful crimes and who are not supportive of our pride community. So town council, what's your next step? Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Is there anyone else in the public, either in the council chambers? All right, Ben.
Getting James Trice, 53 Doe Run. Good evening. All I'm going to say is they're people. Amen. They're people. We need to stop them and start thinking in terms of we. They're people. Amen. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Travis. Is there anyone else in the public or online that'd like to participate, again, it is 2-minute limit. Maybe use the raise hand function or *9. All right, going once, going twice. We are going to move on to item 6, which is public hearings, 6.1. A resolution authorizing the issue of 9 million in bonds to refund certain prior bonds of the town and to finance such additional amounts as are needed to pay all fees, costs, expenses, and premium in connection with the refunding of prior bonds and appropriating the proceeds of such bonds for the foregoing purpose. Toss it over to Mr. Foley and Lisa Hancock, and I believe Ben. Barry Burnaby is on as well for bond counsel. So we have a few folks here tonight to provide additional information.
Yes, obviously, this is going to be Lisa's forte. We had a good meeting with Barry today, or I'm sorry, this week. And the issue of our AAA bond rating, and it went very well. Turn it over to Lisa.
Hello, everybody.
Lisa.
So the last meeting, I had great news for you. And then last week, the president decided to sign some laws into effect that kind of created some challenges for us. Unfortunately, with the bond refunding that I had requested to go forward with the new laws in place, it's making those type of bonds less attractive. And when we go out to refund a bond, we have to, it's one and done. So if we were to go out now and the rates are going high and we decline it, then if there's ever a future coming forward, then we would never have an opportunity to try to refund those bonds and create savings in the future. Hopefully, when things start to stabilize, rates may get a little better. We will be going out to issue debt in September. So we will see what happens. But in working with our financial advisor, Barry Burnaby is online this evening, and he can elaborate in a little bit about it. Our bond counsel, they still feel we should move forward with the resolution this evening, because if something should happen where we have to act quickly and it's going to be a benefit for the town, at least we would be able to move on a refunding and create the savings in the future if there's an opportunity. So Barry, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, Lisa, you hit it right on. You're absolutely right. Currently, right now, it does not make economic sense to refinance it, but it would. I recommend that the town authorize you and the town manager to authorize the refunding bonds. And if at some point in the future, interest rates come back down, the town will be able to move quicker. We'll have a lot more flexibility to move quicker if you have the authority to do the refunding bonds. So yes, you summed it up correctly. It doesn't work right now, but we think the town should authorize it because interest rates move very quickly.
Are there any questions or? Sure.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions before we open the public hearing, we can have some conversation now before we deliberate.
Yeah.
How long do we have to wait? How long we are going to wait, and plus the interest? We must be paying something against it.
Well, currently we are paying whatever the interest rate, and Barry, I'm not sure if you have the schedule in front of you for what the interest rate that we're currently paying is. But certainly when they reviewed what it would be if we were to do the refunding now, the interest rate would be higher than what we're paying. So we're still committed to having to pay what the interest rate is now on those bonds, but we may be able to refund them later on at a lower rate. And there's certain laws that govern how you can do that. Barry, do you have that number?
I do. There's a series of different bonds. There's actually 3 bond issues that are outstanding the town has that are available. The town currently has the option to refinance. But like we said, because interest rates are too high right now, it doesn't make economic sense to do it now. But those interest rates range from 2.5% to 4%. There's no way we could do it based on where rates are now. But if rates were to turn lower and the town authorizes the resolution, then you, Lisa, and the town manager could authorize us to go ahead and do it. Again, only if it makes sense for the town to do.
You said if, and if means you could be 6 months, year, or 2 year, maybe, how long is you thinking about?
Barry,
Well-
he asked, oh, did you understand? What he-
Is he wondering how long we have to wait, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any kind of estimate of what's gonna happen in the market?
You know, that's a very difficult question. Things are very volatile. I mean, rates were going up. They came down very, very briefly. They turned around and went back up again. So the short answer is no one knows where interest rates are going. Again, the purpose of this is to provide flexibility to the town so that if rates were to dip lower again, we can move a lot quicker. Because as you know, Lisa, we're going through all the work to do what we call a new money bond issue now. So the town would have the flexibility to move very, very quickly if rates were to move lower in the next couple of months.
Barry, how long would this authorization last for? That's another question. How, once they approve it this evening, how long would the authorization last for?
I think it lasts for 1 year.
What?
And if it doesn't happen within a year, we'd have to come back to the council to have them authorize it again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Khan. Councilor Murray?
Do you have a particular threshold that would instigate the selling, this refinancing?
Like a saving number.
Yeah,
Yes, currently in our debt management policy, we require at least a 2% savings as a result. So that is, we were a little over, when I look at the amortization schedule on page 9, we were a little over 2% in what we were looking at potentially. And now we don't think we're going to be at that point. So to be in complete with our policy, to be in adherence to our policy, we would have to earn at least 2% in savings.
And that was around 200,000, right?
Right.
so the authorization that you're asking us to consider is to allow the finance director and the town manager to issue these bonds or refinance the bonds, I guess, for up to 1 year, once a 2% or higher savings can be achieved.
Yeah, and we'd be looking for something higher than 2%. Because again, we got to make sure that with the cost of issuance and all of that, that it would be feasible to really move on something like that. So we would be looking at everything involved for it to happen. And so that's exactly what we would be doing, is
And so that,
to recoup it.
thank you. What is the cost to the town to do this refinance?
So that's a good question too. Whenever, as Lisa was saying, just to clarify those metrics again, we look at the present value savings to the town. Actually, it's called the net present value, and the net means net is after all issuance costs. So whenever we mention savings, it is after issuance costs. So there's no way the town would ever do this refinancing unless the net savings or the savings after issuance costs is at least $200,000. And that's roughly 2% of the 2% net present value goal that Lisa was discussing. But on average for a bond refinancing, the issuance costs range from $50,000 to $60,000. So actually, the savings would have to be $260,000 in order for the town to save $200,000 on a net basis.
What was opportunity at this time is that I am going out to issue debt in September. So some of the official statement and all the things that are required to be prepared were already being prepared, and there was some actual savings there. But it's just not worth it for what it would cost us more in the long run, so.
And if the market gets to the point where these net savings are available, how quick can you act? What's the time frame for that?
Very what, 6 to 8 weeks?
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks, but like you said, Lisa, you're absolutely right. We're going through all that work right now for this new money bond issue. So if, unfortunately, if the market were more favorable now, we could piggyback these two bond issues and save a lot in issuance costs. It's unfortunate though, as of right now, this refunding doesn't work. That was our original game plan, was to piggyback this what we call new money bond issue along with the refinancing bond issue. It looks like that might not work. But because the town is doing all this work, as Lisa said, putting together the official statement or the disclosure document, we're meeting with the rating agencies. If in the next couple of months, assuming that rates were to go back down, the town could move a lot quicker because they did all this work already. So we could turn it around a lot quicker and reduce issuance costs. Now, if it drags on much more than 3 months or so, then a lot of that work that the town has done, we're going to have to do all over again. But again, I still think it makes sense. Just remember, with these refinancing bonds, we would not be adding any new debt to the town. We'd be adding new debt, but would be taking old debt off that's at a higher interest rate. So again, the refinancing would only add economic savings, or the town would not do it at all.
Sure. So thank you. That is very informative, and it makes a lot of sense as to why this was brought to us, and unfortunately the conditions changed. But if it takes 6 to 8 weeks to actually complete all the operational tasks that need to be done, and I apologize, but I don't really know what those are. I'm very glad that it's under your stewardship. But if it takes 6 to 8 weeks, why would we vote to give you kind of the open permission? Why not just bring it to us when it comes up?
Well, it's a good question, because that 6 to 8 weeks, the town is well into that right now, again, for this, what we call new money bond issue. So if hypothetically, the market were to improve tomorrow, hypothetically, we would be able to add this refunding into that new money bond issue that the town's going to be doing in a couple of weeks. So even if we miss that window of opportunity in a couple of weeks, when the town is scheduled to do it's what we call new money bond issue for new capital projects, those documents stay current for, like I said, for about 2 to 3 months. So we have a 3-month window now. If the town approves this now, it'll give Lisa and the town manager a lot more flexibility to move very quickly. If we don't, then we have to wait for the next council meeting and get the approval again. I guess that would be an option, but this just removes one of those steps to give the town additional flexibility.
In addition, Barry did mention about all the work that we've done currently. If it is fairly close to this time, it wouldn't take as much as 6 to 8 weeks.
Right.
We may even be able to go out without having to have a bond rating due to how close to this bond rating that we just went through. So it could be much less.
Okay.
So
if I'm understanding Barry correctly, and the paperwork that you guys are currently working on is sort of pertinent over the next 3 months, should this authorization be only limited to 3 months because the urgency doesn't exist after that point? I'm trying to understand why a year and why that time frame was mentioned.
Well, normally it's, once you do the resolution, it's in place. I, for some reason, thought it was 3 years, but honestly, I'm not sure. Our bond counsel, who's our attorney, who's not here this evening, would have been able to answer that right off the top of his head.
I'm not sure on that, to be honest with you too. So every bond counsel does a little different. Sometimes it expires in 1 year, sometimes it lasts up to 3 years.
Right. So that's why when he said 1 year, I was thinking 3. In any event, it still gives us that opportunity, and the only way we can move forward is if there's a savings. So
Right.
It's not really going to hurt anybody by it being out there for the long term, for whatever the state law is, and we can get that clarified. It's not going to hurt anybody. It would only make it more beneficial to make it happen.
Okay. All right, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions from council members? Councilor Luba, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Ms. Maria asked most of the questions I was going to, as far as the issue regarding the cutoff of the interest rate and other things, but is this something that we have a town have done before?
Yes.
As far as it's,
And is this something that's, it would be a regular occurrence almost, whenever the conditions are right?
We always, whenever we are doing a bond or note sale, we are always looking at opportunities to try to achieve savings and do a refunding if possible. So when I have Barry working on our issue, he's always looking at all our other previous issues to see what is eligible. Now, the federal government changed the law that made it much more difficult for municipal governments to refund prior debt. And what makes it difficult is in the past, you were able to refund any type of prior debt that you had on the books. Now, the only thing that you can legally refund if you're going for tax exempt issues are debt that is coming due for current, like a current call date
Right.
or a current maturity. So you can only refund current maturities, but not bonds from many years ago that no longer have a current maturity or a call date that's coming forth. These particular bonds that we're looking at are eligible. Now, there's other ways you can look at things, and it all depends on the markets. There's ways to refund debt with doing bonds that are taxable. Now, a lot of times, those could be higher in interest costs. Yet those things can be weighed out and looked at. If there was, we're a AAA rated community, we're in great shape, but there's some communities that may have to restructure their debt or refund it in some way. So they may opt to go with a taxable situation, and sometimes a taxable situation may be less costly. But we look at all those things when we're going out to issue debt, and for the most part, it's been beneficial to be tax exempt.
And so based upon what we've discussed here and based upon the market, I know right now is not the most beneficial time, especially given the change in the law that just happened. Do you still feel that it is something that is worthwhile, and that would you recommend the town council consider?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Councilor Lewin. Are there any Vice Chair Reed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you mentioned the AAA bond rating. Doing things like this in no way jeopardize that at all, right?
Absolutely not. It makes it even stronger.
Makes it stronger. Okay. That's
Right, Barry?
Correct, absolutely. And Lisa, the town has a pretty active debt management plan. There's a lot of capital needs out there. And as you know, the town has taken advantage of these debt refinancings in past years when rates were even lower to help mitigate the cost of that new debt. And it looked like we were going to do the same thing this time. But again, rates have gone up, as I'm sure everyone's aware. Inflation is up very high. But again, the town has the option to refinance these 3 bond issues. The only thing we need right now is for interest rates to be favorable. Even if the town approves this, we would not do it unless it adds economic savings for the town.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reed. Councilor Yurcheck?
Backup Vice Chair. So, I'm a goal person. I like to keep in line with our goals. I would think that the bill would maintain our goals about the AAA.
Sure, absolutely. We put our best foot forward this week. Brian did a great job talking about the town. So did David Corcoran, talking about our economic development as well as the financial side of things. And we're really hopeful that we're going to maintain that AAA rating. The agency seemed to be very pleased with the information that we shared with them. So we will hopefully know by Monday how it goes. There's also a presentation that I prepared for the rating agency, and if Brian is so inclined, he's welcome to share it with all of you, just so you can gives you a lot of information, and I think it might be interesting.
Yeah, it's a nuts and bolts wrap up of everything we do here in the town financially, and why we are strong financially. And while Lisa's good to give credit to myself and Dave Cochran, we were big role players, and Lisa was the lead for sure. And when you read it, it talks about how highly awarded she is and decorated in the field, and Barry was there for it as well. But yeah, I'm happy to forward that to you guys. For me, it was a learning process, so I was lucky to read it and witness it. So I'm happy to share.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Are there any other questions before we open the public hearing? All right, seeing that, I entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Luba, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Murray. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yeah, that's unanimous. So the hearing is open. Is anyone from the public that would like to speak on the public hearing item for 6.1? They are welcome to do so. Okay, Mr. Price?
Is pertaining to this that we just talked about.
Yeah, just the public hearing item. Yes.
So,
Who's that?
hi, Kenny Trice, 53 Tolland. I've heard a lot of talk about something, but just realized something. We've been operating actually in a very extraordinary interest rate environment. I heard somebody say when rates may not, will go lower. We've been operating, whether we believe it or not, in an interest rate environment that's really been unusual. Ask savers, ask people that have savings and interest rates, and banks in terms of net interest rates, right? In terms, that's how they make a lot of their income. So be careful when you hear something, we hope that rates will go down. Right now, Fed funds is 2.5%, right? That's not really a normal thing. So be careful about rates going back down, because we've really been in an environment that's not typically normal, okay? Be careful when you do things.
Good, thank you. Mr. Trice, are there any other members of the public that would like to participate? Going once, going twice, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So by Counselor Murray, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Counselor Minichek. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, so the public hearing is closed, so we are back to the resolution. Are there any other questions or discussion topics before we move to the resolution? All right, seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the resolution with outlining 6.1.
So moved.
So by Counselor Luba, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Counselor Minichek. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's
We
unanimous.
we need to have a roll call vote.
Oh, roll call vote. Okay, my apologies. Cancel that vote. We'll do a roll call. So Counselor Minichek,
Aye.
Counselor Luba,
Aye.
Vice Chair Egan.
Aye.
Counselor Khan. Counselor Murray.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to 7A, reports of boards and committees responsible to council. Councilman Murray, are there any updates for Birch Grove?
No updates yet.
Okay. So Luke 7B, report town council liaisons. Can I bounce right back to you again?
Absolutely. I was out of the country actually when the Agriculture Commission met at the beginning of the month. I think the council's received an email inviting us to the farm to table dinner, which will be held September 15th. I'm hoping that the information about that can be made public. I'm hoping there's like a e-blast scheduled. For those of you who didn't attend the last one pre-COVID, it was great. And I'm looking again. And I know that the commission in previous meetings talked about the proceeds to benefit a scholarship. And from the invitation, it seems like they're moving forward with that. So that's really good.
What day was that again?
It's a Thursday, I think, September 15th.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Yeah, and again, I hope that we can see a lot of people there. I know they just about sold out last time, so hopefully, again. I also attended the Historic District Commission meeting last week. They continue to review COAs, which are certificates of acceptance, I think they're called, to ensure that the historic character of the community is upheld for the rules and regulations. They have lots of questions all the time, so they are certainly good stewards of that. They had a number of COAs that they were discussing. I also made sure that they were aware that we had started discussion. There was a discussion regarding the Veterans Memorial on the green. And they continue to ask to be involved in those discussions as they continue to move forward. I think especially with Ms. Bach, there's a lot of historical knowledge about how the memorials are at Crandall Park and why they're at Crandall Park. Ms. Bach offered a lot of that perspective at the Historic District Commission. So I think that they have a lot of information. They certainly wanted, they had a lot of input, I guess is how I should say, about the current memorial on the green, and there's like a tree that needs some attention. I know that we talked about this during our previous meeting, 2 meetings ago in July. I don't know, Brian, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you know if that tree and the greenery around that memorial is on a list of things to be dealt with by Public Works?
Yes, I think they were just waiting on final approval to where we're gonna move forward here. I know that it's not a heavy lift, let me put it that way.
Okay. I know Ms. Spock mentioned they had a farewell ceremony to the tree years ago. So again, lots of historical information, ironically. And I know that they requested information regarding the improvements, the road improvements that happened. I think you were gonna.
Related to
Yeah.
the town manager, and they're gonna look into it, yeah.
Awesome. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Khan,
I don't have anything.
thank you. Vice Chair Regan.
Planning and zoning met last night. They had 2 public hearings on 2 separate properties, followed by a unanimous vote in support of what these residents would like to do. The first one was 1504 Tolland State Road, considered RDD, which is a residential design district. They want to take that piece of property and turn a portion of it into CIZ, which is commercial industrial zone, meaning they want to be able to put a business on there. And they did vote in favor of that. The second one was 94 Goose Lane. There's a 27-acre parcel there that they're looking to, the owner is looking to subdivide that. And that was passed unanimously. I'm not sure what they're doing after the subdivision, but it did pass through planning and zoning to subdivide that parcel. And then there was discussion about 95 Hartford Turnpike on potential residential development, but there was no action taken at that point. And then there was a lengthy discussion about windmill regulations and noise ordinances. I will to the minutes to get all the detail on that.
Okay.
And that's it.
Thank you. I heard there were some really robust conversations.
Right.
All right, so for me, I had the Conservation Commission on August 11th. They did an update on the Audubon grant application. They're planning to attend Celebrate Tolland. There is potential discussions about trying to do some kind of tree cutting event or some kind of thing, an interactive event in relation to their forestry management plan. Trying to promote that and inform people about trails in town. They are still going forward with the forest management plan, the Conservation Corps, and whether new members are going to work on trying out public information sessions about those plans to make sure everyone's aware of the process and that, you know, people are coming in and selectively harvesting trees. It's all on the up and up. So they updated their officers. So Jim Hutton maintained as chair, Jane Sameo is the vice chair, Elaine Brewer became the secretary. So they have some new officers there. And then on the 15th, the Water Commission met. They reviewed their annual financials. Everything was generally in the positive. They had a little bit of a loss compared to last year, but obviously the past few years with COVID, they had phenomenal income because everyone was working from home. But overall, they had a net increase in their cash flow. So their finances are in good shape. The Board of Ed met on the 10th regarding an executive session and censure of a Board of Ed member. And then prior to that, they had a meeting on the 10th actually, but sorry. The 10th was a regular meeting. They met to discuss their goals and a variety of policies that are referred to the minutes. And then they had a meeting last Thursday with regards to a censure. So that is it for me. There is one meeting on the 25th for conservation, the site walk of Schindler Schmidt. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, first off, I want to know about these windmills. That sounds like I'll have to refer to the minutes, I guess. Yeah, as far as the Veterans Recognition Commission, that there is actually a special meeting that's going on as we speak. It started at 6:30 regarding the discussion on the further development of Crandall's and the Veterans Memorial there. That there is also discussion regarding moving forward with the renovation of the gazebo there. And the discussion regarding whether or not the shingles should be cleaned or replaced, and whatever the most feasible and best option would be. That's what's going on right now as far as for planning and zoning. Vice Chair Reagan's already covered that, so that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Luba, Councilor Yudichak.
So, let me just go back up. So mental health task force met on July 15th. They're forming almost like a subcommittee regarding diversity, inclusion, development programs for all inclusive. And we be on higher ed and religion and that segment of it. We also, well, later on agenda, we'll have a new member to the task force, hopefully Jen Gallichan, which is here tonight, which already is starting to help us a lot in the task force there. Then we also followed up discussing the video game presentation, which everybody liked very much. And then the Commission with Disabilities met on July 18th. Bev mentioned that the ADA study's been complete. It sounds like we come to the council in September. I asked the chair to hopefully invite the commission itself, since that they're a very big part of ADA. And also, I also asked the chair when we start talking about the green again on the sidewalks, to possibly invite the historic commission and commission with people with disabilities, or if that's just going to be a council meeting first. And also John Malteni stepped down. I think from the town council, thank John for his service to our town. He did a lot for the commission as well. Then we continue to talk about the state's working on a workforce plan for people with disabilities. American AARP has a special meeting next Wednesday, which that's another, I realized it's another packed agenda, so we have a lot of good things cooking in that, so that's all I have for now.
Great, and I did meet with Brian right before the meeting and relayed some of those requests, so it's on the docket to reach out to them and inform them of the availability, or their availability for the meeting dates once it's set, that they're informed to provide input to the town.
Yeah, I know Sue for the vice chair, she's very excited to see things starting to happen on the town side, so it's always nice. Same with mental health task force. It's always nice to start seeing.
So people's actually
Yeah.
get traction.
Yeah.
I forgot one
Yeah,
thing.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I
No worries.
apologize. I had attended several sessions of the Board of Ed union negotiations, and am happy to report that it seems to be going well, and the process is proceeding, and at some point it will come to the council for review as per normal procedure.
Yeah, I think the last time we did it was 2019 in the fall, so it's been a few years. Alright, so that brings us to item 8, and actually, I'd like to propose we move 8.4 up, knowing that we have a few other items to discuss, and it might be a lengthy meeting, so I wanted to offer Ms. Gallichan, if they didn't want to stay for the whole meeting, if they're just here for mental health task force, that we can go through that discussion and process. Take care of that. There you go. All good. So I would entertain a motion to move 8.4 up to 8.1.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, that is unanimous. So 8.1 is now appointments to vacancies on various boards and commissions. So we do have one, which is Jennifer Gallichan for the Board of Ed representative for the Mental Health Task Force. And then we did have, I think, as Councilman Yudichak alluded to, a resignation notice from Mr. Multeney. So we thank them for their service, but if there is no discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve Ms. Gallichan to serve on the Mental Health Task Force.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, that is unanimous. So congratulations, you're on
Thanks,
board
Jen.
now officially.
Yeah, on a note.
All right, so now we'll move to 8.2, which is a consideration of a resolution for a supplemental appropriation of $46,098 from the equity distribution from Kerma to use the town and board of education town share with appropriate funds in the amount of $4,280 to the capital improvement fund for environmental and other testing projects. I'm not going to list the account number, and 17,000 to the capital improvement fund for the Old Cat Hole Road tennis court account. The Board of Education's share is in the amount of 24,808, would be appropriated to the safety and security updates. The account be determined to the Board of Education office at 51 Tolland Green.
So there's a, Kerma gives us, for lack of a better term, a reimbursement. And it's split based on a percentage. Most of it goes to the lion's share goes to the board, and we get some here on the town side. The Old Cat Hole Road resurfacing project came in surprise, about 17 grand, or it's actually I think like 20 grand more than had been bid way back when they did it. This would be to cover that, is why we're moving over that money.
Okay. Are there any questions from any council members regarding 8.1?
Is this, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
This is like, something we do on a regular basis.
Lisa, this is how we move money around?
We get money from Kerma. I don't.
Yeah, usually, and,
Mike might be able to answer that
yeah,
better.
I can answer it. It's just-
Okay.
Wasn't sure if I was gonna say something. Usually.
I can
yes.
answer that if you'd like.
Okay, well, go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so Katie, we normally get this. It's not every year, but it's really dependent on how Kerma is. So normally we do get it, and we got it last year. We put all of ours in the testing account last year. In the past, we've used it for other things, like there used to be a house that we owned that was contaminated. So one year we used some of the funds to remediate and take down that house. So we have it on average, maybe every other year. We usually get something from Kerma, and it depends on the amount varies anywhere from maybe 20,000 to 40,000 in total.
Thank you. And how did these recommendations on how we use this money, how are those recommendations decided?
So we were faced with a need to redo the tennis courts. The bid comes in way higher, not way higher, but again, around 20 grand. I turned to Lisa and asked her, Lisa, how can we creatively fund this, or what's probably the most efficient way? Between her and Michael, they said, we have this money coming in. All we need is for a council to approve us moving it over to there. And we can do it in that manner, which is obviously a legal move, and there's some flexibility with that money. So we thought it was most appropriate. Lisa, would you agree with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council members? Right,
So
Sherry?
if this is approved, is there a plan as to when this will be done?
Yeah, like September coming up, like fast.
Next month.
Yeah, oh yes,
Very good.
yeah. It's been long, it's been too long. We get emails on the cracks, and in fact, we had pulled said trigger, move on it, and it came back at, well, 70 now. And so this was 2 weeks ago, if that.
Any other questions? Seeing that, I entertain a motion to approve the resolution outlined in 8.1.
So moved.
Second by Councilor Khan. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. All right, that is unanimous.
One more point of just procedure on that. It wasn't just me saying it to Lisa. We called the group together for consensus to include Parks and Rec, Mike, Lisa, and we all discussed what are our options and move forward. So it wasn't like I just filled it out of the hat.
Appreciate it. All right, so 8.3 is consideration of resolution establishing a firehouse subcommittee. I've laid out the ground rules of the membership based on our discussions from our last meeting. So we right now have several department heads and up to 2 council members, so chair and vice chair or their designee. I'm willing to serve as the member for the chair's spot. I don't know if, John, if you want to hop on, or if you want to designate, or we can just have one person and I'll be the point of contact back and forth.
I'm gonna need a designate.
Okay,
Designated driver always works well.
I just don't have the time.
would you like to be?
Sure, Mr. Chair, I will take that responsibility.
Sounds good.
And I'm glad, let's see, yes, my wife is not online to hear me say that, so.
Is there any further discussion? All right, then I entertain a motion to approve the resolution outlining 8.2 and also indicating the two council members are Vice Chair Jones and Councilor Luba, Vice Chair Regan's designee.
Steve, can I jump in there for a minute?
Of course.
Sorry, but Brian and I talked about it. Brian, you may want to talk about taking Jim Paquin off the list.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah, let's pause here for a second. Jim may be in a position where he tells us, or there exists a possibility that what you're doing is against code, or, you know, that we can't progress there. So he would like to have himself taken off, obviously, from that, to recuse himself from any imposition.
Okay. That seems reasonable, so I would.
That being said,
Yeah,
he would still be at our disposal for advice and such, obviously, and could attend. It's just he wouldn't be a member of the subcommittee.
okay. All right, in that case, I would withdraw my motion and resubmit it as amended to have Jim Paquin taken off the list. So is there a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
All right, made by Councilman Yudichak. Is there a second?
I will second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. We'll go forward and try to get the organizational meeting quickly.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yes, thank you guys for volunteering.
All right. Of course. All right, so that brings us to 8.4, which is the consideration and approval resolution pertaining to a statement in support of the LGBTQ plus community and against bigotry or intolerance by the town council. This was mentioned back at our last meeting that it was proposed by the chair. It's something that we wanted to kind of mimic what was done last year when we did a statement against racism. And initially we were going to just kind of have it reviewed internally, but was reminded that with the statement against racism, we had a public discussion and provided edits or conversation before approving it. So it was brought before the council to have that discussion. So this is a draft at this point. I just want to have a robust and respectful conversation about the statement, but we can move something forward that shows our support for the community, and that I'll open the floor to discussion and questions.
Oh,
All right, that's what you said.
I'll just start, I guess. So I think that town of Tolland should be inclusive for everybody. As we saw how much, when the sign came down, how much it did affect so many people. And I think by doing a statement, it's the first step to the LGBTQ community. I know we got a letter of concern from a resident the other day, and I read it over and over, and I understand that residents' concerns, and I take his concerns seriously. But I do fully think that we need to take a step forward and be brave and help the people feel that they're safe in their own community.
Are there any other comments, Councilor Luba?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That with regard to this, I fully support the statement as an idea. And I think that the information in this and what we put forward is good. That being said, that I think it's something that that I would support a general statement against bigotry, against intolerance of any type. But I think that it's something that while I support the LGBTQ community, and I I mean, I have family members, I have friends that are in that same community, and I understand the issues that are involved in it. That I think it's something that we need to make it a broader stance and a broader position that we won't tolerate anything of this nature in any way, shape, or form. I think it's something that I was hesitant about our statement last year because this was my concern, that it would bring forward where every time something happened, there would be a new statement of a new demand for a new statement. I understand the reason behind it. I understand, and again, I fully support it. I believe in what it says, but at the same time, I think it's something that that this is a situation where we don't want to get in the repeated situation of having to come forward with a statement every time. And I think that this is one thing where if we say any type of intolerance, any type of bigotry, any type of hatred shown within the community, that makes a stronger statement. That so again, I fully support the community. I understand the concerns of the community. I think that's just something that I'm glad to see that we had law enforcement act quickly on both ends. That this is something that the people that were responsible for this will be held responsible accordingly. But I think the statement as presented is something. Well, again, I believe in the spirit of it. I believe in the nature of it. It's not something that I feel that that I could fully support at this point. And that's my position on it. Thank you.
Vice Chair Regan?
So I agree with Lou in the respect that, well, I've spoken out publicly about vandalism. I think we all did as a council. I think we really came together and spoke out against that. I think we all rejected what happened. I agree with just about everything in the statement. To me, though, I think it's too reactive. And I think every time something happens, if bullying becomes a problem at the high school, are we going to come out with a statement against bullying? I don't know, but I think if we single out one community in our town, we're leaving others out. So I think we can be very inclusive by not singling out the LGBT community. So I agree with everything in this statement, but I think it would encompass more people in our town if we didn't single out that community. And I know this is a reactive statement to what happened to the sign, and I agree with it. I have a little issue with just singling out the LGBT community, and I think it should include everybody. I think as a council, we should reject, we should reject what happened, the bigotry, and I think we should embrace the diversity in town for everybody. So that's just my only issue with the statement, but in spirit, like Lou said, I agree with it, and I think we can figure a way to move forward with something at this point.
Yeah. Thank you, Vice Chair Regan. Are there any comments from other council members? Any responses? No. Councilman Murray?
I disagree with the concern that this statement isn't broad enough. And I agree that it is reactionary, but it's time to react. What happened in town is a series of escalating hate crimes. And it's reasonable for the targeted community to come to their government body and say, what are you going to do about it? And I think that's what's happening here. We had a community member come to our council 2 meetings ago, asking for us to make a statement. We've had members of our community approach our council in person, virtually. I don't know about you, but I've had people calling me about it. And I think it is appropriate for us as a government body to react to hate crimes that happened in our community. And it's important that the LGBTQ plus members of our community feel supported, because they were targeted in not just once, but twice, where the hate act escalated. While I understand that the first act was that there has been a law enforcement action against the individual who was caught doing the vandalism. The second act, if I understand correctly, is there is no, it's sort of open-ended, right? It is not solved at this point, and it has low solvability is the word they gave me. So
Very low solidity.
so, and I understand, you know, and I appreciate that Brian was able to talk to me about it, that he had gotten an update from our state trooper. I have a lot of confidence in the troopers, and I feel confident that they have done what they can to solve that crime. But as I understand it, and certainly I get it, there are some crimes that are more difficult to solve than others, and this might be one of them. And I think it is reasonable for the targeted group to say, what are we gonna do? I think this statement is a great gesture, a first step gesture. I think there's more to be done, but to say that we are singling out one group, and we're not willing to single out one group, is ignoring the fact that hate crimes occurred targeting one group. I don't think it's inappropriate for us to react. And I do think if there is bullying in the high school and we have people coming to us and saying, what are you gonna do about it? That we do something. And this statement is a first step. It is an important gesture. But I don't think that it should be broader. I think it should say that we reject and condemn acts against our LGBTQ plus community, because that's what happened. And so to say, oh, we want to be broader and we want to be more inclusive, I think that's great. I like inclusivity, but that's ignoring the hate crime that happened in town. And I think that's important. It's important for us to make a statement, an official statement. And I think it will be well received as an important gesture and first step. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bernie. So, yeah, and I think I'll just add to it. I definitely, you know, I always look for consensus, so I definitely would like to hear alternatives, but at the same time, I do think we have to be cognizant of the fact this would be a statement for the LGBTQ community, both in regards to what happened locally and a lot of the concerns I think that folks are seeing nationally. I think in the state, generally, we are in a good place, but there's always challenges. So I think we should focus more on a specific group. I think that was sort of the intent of the statement against racism that was passed unanimously a year and a half ago. You know, I think just looking back at the minutes, just trying to reflect on how we kind of got there. You know, one of the copies of the commentary was from Councilman Nuccio, I believe. Just trying to scroll and find it, but you know, it was the notion that we wanted something that was measurable and actionable, and I think that there is a robust community. The LGBT community is robust, and we've had some allusions that there might be some suggestions to actually take action with this statement and make something measurable to improve and make sure people feel welcome here. So, you know, I definitely would be disappointed, but understand if there's disagreement and there can't be unanimous consensus on the statement. But I hope as we continue to discuss, maybe we can get closer to that. So. Any further, before we go around for a second time, any comments?
One question that I'm full supportive of any community. They are human beings. Doesn't matter white, black, Asian, dark, whatever it is. Just like, the only thing I cannot understand that if we are going to separate them, give them a something that, that's the only thing I do not understand that, I'm just trying to make sense for myself. Let's say a question to you, Malachi, the town manager. If I said, dark life matters, what are you gonna do about that? That's the only thing is question to me is like black life matter, white life matters, what life matters? I would say that, you know what, it's a creature, it's a human being, it doesn't matter what you are. You have the equal right to the town hall or anywhere else. That's my belief is. So it's like there should not be singled out or anything else. That's the way my thought is. But I'm gonna, that's just a question to every single person right here. And I'm just gonna pour my thoughts on that. That it was a question to every other human. How we supposed to treat each other. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I think as a general response, obviously every person here has their individual opinions and would certainly make them. So if someone was on the council and wanted to say that they believe Black Lives Matter, or believe in that movement, they have the right to say that as an individual. So I think the purpose of this statement is to try and provide a resolute voice of support for our community that's been impacted very negatively recently and has seen issues both locally and across the country. That's just my perspective. But I think in general, we try and treat each other cordially and with respect on the council when we're serving each other. And I think as neighbors, we kind of approach each other with respect and understanding. So I think that's some of the intent here, but also to make sure groups that have been marginalized historically are valued and recognized. And we understand that there may be policies in place or action that we can take to better promote and include them in the community in a way that has not been done previously. I guess that's just my general response. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Kyle. Councilor Lupa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I fully understand, Ms. Murray, and I fully support that. I think that is an incredibly valid point. And I'm not denying any of that. But I think that last year, we were also asked to take a statement against some other actions, where it wasn't a community, or it wasn't a group. It was a specific person and a specific organization that were targeted by people on social media and other places where that person, specifically a town resident, was specifically targeted because of allegations of racism, and that the people that were behind that were going not after just a general threat, but after this person's employment and his family's employment, and then organizations that he was affiliated with, that they went after that organization specifically. And that we were asked to take a statement against that. That's not just a theoretical action. That's not something where it's a miasmic type of general threat or a something that affected a community. This affected a resident of our own community. And it was the decision at that time to not take an action against it and not to take a statement because it wasn't our spot at that point. It wasn't something. We could have very easily condemned that violence and those threats that person was made to that person at that time, but we chose not to. And I think that says, I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I'm having a hard time supporting a specific thing. If we are going to make a general statement, I think that's something that's great because that addresses all the issues. That this was something that it was directed at a person, at a resident of our town, and that we were told not to act upon it. And there was other people that were on the town council at the time as well that said we should not do that. But now we're being asked to do something like this. And I just want to draw out that dichotomy. Given what's been supported here, I agree with the chair. I think it's something that we do need to speak in a unified voice, and I will support this. When it comes down to a vote, I am willing to support it. But I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that this is something that I would also ask then that we make a general statement as well. that any type of bigotry, any type of intolerance should not be tolerated in any form against anybody. That this, yes, this community, the LGBTQ plus community was targeted at this point. But there were other times where we were asked to stay silent. And I don't know if it's because of the message that was behind it, or the people that were behind these certain actions, or any other reasons. But I just, not the hypocrisy, but yes, the hypocrisy where we're asked to do on one thing, but not on another. And that's my biggest problem is, and I've always spoken out, and I think this is consistent. Every time something like this has come up, I've spoken out against it. I've spoken out on both sides. And it's just something that, you know, again, if we're going to do this statement, then I'm asking for a general statement as well. But then we go down that rabbit hole of when do the statements stop? How many times are we going to be asked to make a statement against something? And that's why I think that if we make this statement, we make one general statement, and that's where it should end. Because then we can at least say, this is what we've taken this point, we've made this point, we've taken this stance. So I will support this because I do believe in it, and I do think that it is something that has merit and has meaning. But I just caution against it going forward, and I wanted to draw out that issue. To say that we've been asked to do this before in other circumstances, but we didn't, and we were told not to. And so that's where my struggles come. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, I appreciate that vulnerability and honesty, Counselor Luba. I guess my question or my answer, you know, probably not the easiest answer to give, but I would say probably it may never end. But hopefully through some of these statements and actions as elected officials, we get to a point where we no longer have to see these kinds of incidences in our community anymore, and people just treat each other with respect as neighbors. I guess that's just the ideal. But I wanted to kind of backtrack a little bit in terms of, you said you were interested in a general statement. What kind of, I guess going forward, if we were to come back and do something more general or have maybe some kind of community conversation about bigotry and intolerance, what would you foresee that looking like?
As far as a statement,
Yeah.
what you have here, just in a more, I mean, there's certain things that we could eliminate, like the employment practices or other things that are not, where services are not denied. I think that doesn't need to be in there, but I think it's something saying that that we endeavor to uphold these standards, and that we say that we don't tolerate that there's no place for intolerance or discrimination or bigotry or bias in any form. I know that that's something where it goes against our standards of saying what can we show as measurable and achievable. But I think that's something that if we're going to make an overarching statement, that's the one time where I say that we can make an overarching statement like that, because I think that's one time where it would be called for. If that makes sense.
It does. I was just trying to think of a way to, I think I would still want to be inclusive of the LGBTQ+ community, but somehow include language in maybe in the opening statement that could be additional, that, you know, we do condemn intolerance and discrimination in any form against the LGBT community, and discrimination or intolerance as a whole, or something around those lines that, you know, knows that we are speaking about something specific, but that we also adhere to those values in general.
That would be fine. I mean, anything that we could do like that, I think would be worth merit, and would be worthwhile. But I think that what I don't want is for us to now that we're sort of discussing this issue specifically, water it down too much, where then it has zero meaning.
Yeah.
If we're gonna make a statement against this, and that we're united in what this is about, and why the whole purpose of why we're writing this was because of these actions.
Yeah.
Then let's make it meaningful. Let's not water it down.
Okay.
But if it's something that we're looking at a more general statement, then let's look at the general statement. That's my position.
Okay. Councilman Yudichak?
Are you talking about two different statements though, or one?
I would think, I mean, that's something that I think that it would be worthwhile. I mean, again, I hate making two separate statements, but I think that possibly two separate statements, going one for this specific act. If we're gonna focus on this act, because that is something, but then have a more general one where it's an overarching statement. And I think that that would encompass everything.
Get me like that. I would. Yeah, I feel like you need one. No, I would agree with Bruce. statement. I mean, again, I took that writer's email. You know, you gotta sometimes put like words in trouble, whatever words I use, personal
Perspective. or-
perspectives, you know, and I read it, and I'm like, huh, interesting. But I still think we should let our LGBTQ community feel important, because they are important. I mean, we are leaders in this town. Leaders bigger than us stand up for different organizations. I agree, I don't want it every time, but if it helps make people feel more comfortable where they live, or confident in what they do, and want to express themselves, we should be leaders for them. And just, I don't know, I like the idea of the two, but I definitely don't want to make it one big thing, because I am against any other form of hatred. So I do think it's important for the council to express that too.
I appreciate that. And I think it would be valuable to maybe workshop a general statement that maybe can encompass it, so that I think the Councilor Lewis point, while we want to recognize them individually, as we've alluded to on social media or public, print media, digital media made statements and commentary, having something that we can all agree to and maybe have a full council discuss could then create kind of a blanket statement, at least for this group, that we are against those kinds of discrimination, similar to the racism, it didn't necessarily target any individual group or race or ethnicity, but, it covered the whole topic. So I think I would agree that it'd be good to go back and we can workshop a collaborative statement that could address that. So going forward, if there are future instances, the council has that overarching statement, but
Hoping we will have to.
yeah, hopefully we don't have to, but so.
I just have a
Yeah.
follow-up question. I told me, but is there policy? Do we have a policy on these type of things, like that we limited?
On statements from council?
Yeah.
None that come to mind by any stretch. No, just the flag policy, the only one that we talked earlier, that's nothing, zero implications there.
I still think stand by it. It has nothing to do with this, but I still think we should have sent the other one out to the community about vandalism. I never did that, but.
Thank you.
Understood.
I should read it.
Ms. Murray, I don't know if you're in sales, but you should be, because I'm sold. You sold me. I think you made some excellent points. Perhaps points that I hadn't thought of before, maybe. So I'm gonna support the statement as it is. My prior remarks still stand, though. I think we want to be careful about reacting every time some sort of an incident happens. And as people have already said, I hope we don't have to deal with these types of things very often. But you made some great points, and I'll stand by this as it is.
Thank you, Vice Chair Regan. Is there any further discussion before we go to a vote?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just want to thank the council for being mature and listening to each other and not getting emotional and working together. It's important. I am always.
No, I agree. I think in general, and it's something I think that we reflected, just to make a general statement about politics today, is a lot of times we kind of see nationally, even from the state, it's like everything is always head to head versus at the local level, 80–90% of the time we can come together and agree on things. It's usually one or two issues that can really cause a wedge. Sometimes it's about money, usually ends up being about money, but
I think that it's something that we are representing our community. I mean, and that's the whole thing, that we're here to support our community. And that's the important thing. How we do it, we may not always agree upon, but bottom line is we're always going to do the right thing, I think. And we always are willing. I mean, I think that this is probably one of the more unified councils I've seen. And so I appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you, Councilor Luba. There's no further discussion, and I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution and statement as outlined in 8.3.
I would very much like to make a motion.
All right, motion made by Councilor Murray. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilor Luba. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
So
you.
we'll have that posted and published on the news and notices under the council webpage as outlined in the agenda. Old business, we have none. Item 10, report of the town manager. They read a written report, but I think Brian might have one update, maybe another about the incident at the town hall a couple hours ago, if you want to give an update.
Yeah, it's cool in here now, so that's a positive sign. There was a lightning, we believe a lightning strike in the library. For those of you who didn't get the email, this afternoon, Tolland Fire was dispatched to the library for a report of a lightning strike. 2 staff members were inside. They heard a very loud bang, not like a thunder type bang, with a bright flash, and then a spark came down from one of the vents, they believe, and landed on their table. Fire responded. They did a visual inspection of the building, and there was no obvious sign of a lightning strike. There was potential signs, but no mass burn spot or anything like that. With that, I've asked for facilities to do an inspection of our heating, cooling, and consider an inspection of our electrical system, so that should there be damage, we can make a claim through our insurance carrier. Having gone through, lost my well pump to a lightning strike earlier this year. And what was the other matter that you wanted me to discuss?
No, I think that was it. Just if you had any other general updates of anything, manager's office.
No, nothing of record.
Right. Item 11 is adoption of minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve minutes as outlined in 11.1 and 11.2.
So moved.
So by Councilor Luba, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor
You're
Yudichak.
so loud.
All right, seeing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Correspondence to council, and I did let Councilman know ahead of time that he didn't do it for their first meeting of the month, so this will be reflective of pretty much the entire month of August.
Yes, July 27th through August 23rd, there were 12 emails. One was regarding solar storms, 3 regarding hate crime, 2 regarding the Tolland sign, 1 of the pride flag, 1 about park improvements, 1 about road work on 195, 1 about heat pumps, 1 about the LGBTQ+ resolution, and 1 about the farm to table.
Thank you. So item number 13 is chairperson's report. Obviously, there will be a chair hour on, actually, I believe it'll be September 1st, right before the Labor Day holiday. So I'll be in the library at 6:30 to 7:30. Obviously, before our next meeting, we'll be Celebrate Tolland. So highly encourage everybody to attend, check it out. And I know actually, I think that's like Brian and I were talking about before the meeting is the Fall Fest and the Scarecrow Contest will also be upcoming very soon. And we're very excited about that. I think there's going to be the we're using that green council. We're using
Oh,
the
no,
green.
I'm just saying it's already Fall Fest and it's,
You know, the leaves are already changing. I've already seen too many places, but
It's gonna be a great event.
yeah.
Yeah, like I said, either an IPA truck or a bubbly truck, which is Prosecco and champagne, which I confess I would prefer that than the IPA any day, but there'll be food trucks. We're likely gonna block the road. We really want to make this I don't want to say a signature event in the town to steal a thunder from any other event, but we're looking to make it a positive event with inertia moving for decades to come. So, and it's not a what can't we do, it's how do we make it work attitude in the meeting. So it'll be great.
That's great. Thank you. And that's it for me for the chairperson's report. So I will move on to 14, which is communications and petitions from council persons. So if there are any at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is one thing that I would like to address, and that was a comment that was made earlier during public participation, which I think that we've sort of shown it's not true. It's that if you're not in support of one thing, then you're against another, or that if you're not supporting this, then you're supporting the people that are against this certain action. That we don't always agree on everything. And that I think it's something that drawing that false dichotomy is what's getting this country and this state into a big trouble. That if you're not with me, you're against me. That's not how things are. I can disagree with you in principle. I can still condemn a certain action. Just like with this whole, statement that we just discussed. That I condemn that action completely, but that doesn't mean that I can't have concerns regarding what we're doing. And I think that's something that, I would ask everyone to really seriously consider when they moving forward, is that we need to start respecting opposite viewpoints again, that we've gotten too divided in many different areas, and that the division saying that you're either, if you're not with this, then that means you're with the evil. That's not how things are. We need to be able to respectfully disagree with one another. We need to be able to see opposing viewpoints. We need to be able to understand where other people are coming from. Not necessarily saying that we have to accept it, but at least understand. And that I think it's something that moving forward, I think that this town council has really done a good job of that. We don't always agree on a lot of things. There's a lot of times, a lot of debate, but we do what's right. And I think that that's something that I'm very proud of this council for doing. But I also would ask people that everyone out there to really consider that and really hold that and get away from that false dichotomy, because that's only going to bring us down a further dark hole. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely, I would agree. There's definitely a lot of nuances to opinions and forming them, as well as evolution and growth in how our opinions are formed. So, thank you for that. Are there any other comments or additions? Councilman Yudichak?
Mine's a little later, but
It's okay.
no, I appreciate those comments. So I had a resident about a shred-in event at the community. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Stuff
I
that-
forget the exact company name. They mentioned it.
It's InfoShred
InfoShred, yeah.
is the company, and I guess do it once a year, usually on tax time, whenever people can bring their recycle. I don't know if Tolland's ever done that. We want to do that. I think Steve, you also mentioned that sometimes you can raise money to put towards a charity. Or something. So-
Yeah, I think it's similar to, the recycling events that the scouts do, and I think some other groups usually like work with the clothing drive. They work with Savers or another company to help recycle clothing. So I think that'd be a good opportunity to perhaps explore, if you need no cost to the town, or even maybe low cost or reduced rate. The town has the funds available. Maybe even not probably this year, but if there's any future years for the NIP fee cost, perhaps maybe for environmental use, it could be going towards that. But we can definitely look into their schedule and where it could fit.
I know, I think surrounding towns do it. Coventry's doing one, I think, next month, so I looked into it. Just an idea.
Maybe we could have Brian reach out to John Elsesser and see what they do and how they manage it.
Yep.
Are there any other additions?
I agree with Mr. Audubon for your comments. The only thing I like to add up to a request for the residents that have to step up. They have to feed us. They have to at least give us a support what their comments are, what their thoughts are, so we can make a better decision in future. But we need a feedback from the residents, definitely.
Definitely. Thank you, Councilor Khan. And I agree. It's definitely something, I think, even this past budget cycle, and John mentioned me after our presentation that there were only one or two people that came up to comment. It was like one of the quietest years in recent times. So I think we all definitely have to work together as leaders and also reach out to our neighbors to let them be aware of what's going on and how to speak out and speak up, obviously. See, I think after the chocolate, if anything. All right, but anyway, Councilor Murray?
Is town council, does town council have a table at Celebrate Tolland?
Not the council itself necessarily, usually the manager's office or the town as a whole usually is there, and I think in years past, I think Lisa has been there at one point. I
I think
believe.
I was the first manager to
Yeah.
actually have a table,
Like-
just because I was new and I'm trying to introduce myself, but the recreation department does a big table, so maybe one last year, Kim from the senior center was there as well.
Yeah, and I think in prior years, like Mike Wilkinson might have done it one year when it was at the the Parker.
Yeah.
The old field up there, I think Mike was there over with recreation, so usually there's someone there, but not, there hasn't been some time that. Like manager is actually there representing the town, or at least elected bodies, like, or, well, Board of Ed has a table usually, but not the council.
You can stand on my table. Yes, you have to.
I do have a save round as well. I'm not, if everyone's done.
Okay.
One other save round is for anyone that wants to support the Talent Veterans Recognition Commission, that we are selling tumblers. And that the funds do go to the committee for any type of function that we have, including building the wall that we're talking about. So anyone that wants to buy it, here you go.
Appreciate the plug.
No, you just get the, well, you get a supporter underneath it.
I just wanted to make sure that we said out loud that, to remind our community that despite the rain today, we are under level 2 drought. I know, I actually had a conversation with someone from DOAT, from the Department of Agriculture today, and they sit on the drought council, and even though it rained a lot today, there's still a considerable amount of concern about drought. And although we're not under stage 3,
Our neighbors are.
right, and the chief is teasing us that might be coming. So I know our grass and our gardens all enjoyed a nice watering today, but I'm still telling my kid he can't water the grass. You can water the plant, the vegetables, but not the grass. Anyway, so just wanted to say that. I do ask that we consider reviewing the flag policy. I think gestures are important. And I think this one is one that I'd like to see us talk about again. I'd also like to talk about real action that we can take to ensure that we are being more inclusive as a town. And I think in taking this action, the inclusivity should be broader than just the LGBTQ plus community. Because when we talk about action, I think there's a lot of room to be more inclusive. And I have some ideas. I think a review of our personnel policies, although I'm sure they are up to date with current state law, might be something that is something we should consider. Recreation activities could be considered to be more inclusive. I would challenge all of our elected and appointed boards and commissions to find ways to be more inclusive. And I think a request from the council to all of our appointed boards anyway, to consider inclusivity in their charter missions would be very effective. And I know it's great to hear things like the mental health task force is really working on not just children, not just seniors, not just queer folks, but they're really, I'm not part of the commission, I don't attend their meetings, but I can tell just from the reports that they're doing a lot. But I think challenging our other appointed boards and commissions could really bring some creative ideas that I haven't thought of to the table. And I think that might be really interesting. I think there are other ways we could talk to our human services department about needs that they see in the community and what are some policies that we might consider to be more helpful to anyone who our human services department helps or identifies need. Reaching out to the senior center to see what activities, what do they need to be more inclusive? I know they work on a very limited budget, but are there things that we could do beyond just budgeting to help them be more inclusive? I think this is an opportunity for us to challenge ourselves, our town employees, and everybody in town to think about how to be more inclusive. And I think there's certainly an opportunity to do that in a lot of ways, and I'd like to see that move forward.
If I may pose a question.
Yes, choice.
I mean, I agree with that, but I guess what's the term? What is inclusivity? I mean, your understanding of inclusivity is something that I may not have that same conception of it. And so I think that really we have to be careful about saying inclusivity without really expanding upon what that means.
Sure.
Just like equity or things like that. There's a lot of terms that are out there that again, they're great words, but what does that actually mean? And I know that's something that we could discuss at a later point in time, but I just wanted to pose that question so that we could all think about that and what it means to us.
Yeah, and I also, I think that's a very good point, Lou, and in some ways, I want to say that it's important to hear various people's view on what it means, because part of being inclusive is listening to others, right? But I think this could be a great opportunity for our town to really highlight some of the wonderful things that we're already doing. So for example, the Veterans Recognition Commission is making efforts to include the branches that were left off, or maybe the new branch of the Space Force. That's something you've already highlighted with us, but maybe we need to kind of funnel it all to Brian to give him that opportunity to showcase all of this information, right? I think that there is an opportunity here, not only to expand what inclusivity means and how we can be more inclusive, but also to highlight the actions that we've already taken, because they're important. And they can be helpful and informative. I'm very excited to see some of the creativity Brian could bring to this. Today he and Lisa mentioned that they had a meeting this week regarding our bond rating. And while community efforts on inclusivity might not be important to our bond rating or even relevant, I'm sure that Brian goes to more meetings than we want to know about, where things like this could come up, and as part of his tool belt could help position Tolland in good ways. He might hear about a grant, he might hear about a program where we can add services. There's a lot of opportunity here, and I think while we're talking about it, while we're thinking about it, asking for input on what we're already doing and ideas on how to expand on that, this is a great opportunity to have those communications.
Great, thank you.
I just wanted to throw Mr. Foley under the bus too. With your background though, don't you have some background on the groups and stuff and how to bring people together? Am I right on that?
I have a variety. I can expand. Certainly in Hartford, we had an LBGT commission. And that commission was put together by the mayor. And my part of the commission was for the commission wanted to get a certain certification for the city, which would make them eligible for certain grants and such for them to obtain. There were certain criteria they had to meet, and a lot of that had to do with law enforcement. And my role was to come up with ideas to make our police department more welcoming to the LGBT community. And so my baby was that one, we would develop a policy on LGBTQ in booking. when they're arrested and how they're processed. Two was to have an LGBTQ liaison officer. And that would be an officer that would represent on two levels, one for the community to contact if they don't feel comfortable reaching out to any police officer, that they could go to an LGBTQ police officer and express their needs or concerns or anything with that officer, if one, and two, if there were other officers in the police department that were LGBT and they had concerns, they could also go to that liaison. My unique role was I was still am involved in that community, and the chief said we can't just ask somebody, what's your criteria to be the LGBT liaison officer, and my response to him is I'll take care of that. And of course, we came up with a great one. The program was huge success, and the LGBTQ commission got their certification. Our program became a role model for other police departments around Connecticut, and then ended up getting foisted on other police departments that weren't overly inclusive to that community in their towns. And they called us, how did you do it? Just let us mirror your policy and that sort of thing. I currently sit on the governor's hate crime advisory council. And in that role, we come up with ideas on preventing, investigating, and dealing with hate crimes. In the Councilman Luba's professional position, we talk about diversion. And if you look what happened here in Tolland when the person was arrested, there's a lot of programs, and both for the victim and the accused, that we see very successful in training and counseling and getting that person help, and it's incredibly healing to both sides. That's one example. Others are programs within towns that towns or cities can employ or use to make their town less likely to incur hate incidents. So this week, my role, they sent out 10 priorities. I had to select my top 6, and I can't think of them off the top of my head, but they're all really decent recommendations. These will be recommendations to Uncle Ned, and this is what we say in the legislature, and a lot of strong stuff in there. Positive stuff, policies, a lot of policies, some of it for law enforcement, some of it on mental health, just a lot of things on what I feel are best in preventing and dealing with hate crime. So yeah, I do have some experience on it, but again, I'm happy to do whatever you as a governing body decide. I've worked under City Hall that hung every flag in the world in the city of Hartford, and as I was explaining to Steve, there's a cost there. You have to buy a lot of flags. If someone comes and says, hey, this is whatever this is our country, Brazil being a big one, we get a Brazilian flag. But a lot of times in Hartford, you can just say, can you bring us a flag? Governor hangs many flags over the state capitol as well. And I'm very happy on the third week of March to see the Irish flag up there for St. Patrick's Day. And I'm content with the policy here. I want to do what's going to make us have the least amount of polarization in our town. And Colleen, I don't know what the answer is there. So my role is to be really Switzerland. I can make advice where I see fit, and we're not going to always agree. But I've been on all sides. All sides can work. And geez, I've never, I loved everywhere. Everything we've done, I've never been like, this is the worst, it's gonna stink. No, everything's been great. So I think we'll be fine. I hope I made sense there. Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
There's others I'm sure that I've sat on, that I'm forgetting about, but those are the two that come to mind.
okay. Just think with some of that experience, a lot of experience that could help.
I want to look at the hate crimes thing. As you guys, and I think to myself sarcastically, nowhere in there did it say the town should, it would be great if each town in Canada came out with a statement. It didn't say that. It really gives it doesn't say not to do it either. It really gives some good constructive things. And it's just advice on what our top 6 are. But really, they're all great things in regards to hate crime prevention and awareness and training, and aftermath and dealing with it, really holistic stuff. So While this would not be determined a hate crime, however, one of the priorities was redefining the hate crimes law, coming soon to a desk near you, Councilman Luba, because the hate crimes law is very narrow as it sits today. And so they'll look to redefine that. That'll be a battle. We'll see what happens. But I want to dig those up, and I'll send it to you, Colleen, and let you weed through them and see if anything makes sense to you.
Can you send it to the entire council? 'Cause I'd like to
Sure.
read it.
The thing is, I don't know if I can get back in it. It was a Google Doc,
Oh, okay,
but I'll fish them up.
thank you.
I'll just make a couple quick announcements, just as a reminder, we have our special joint meeting with PZC on Thursday, right here, 2 days from now, regarding the Affordable Housing Trust. Hopefully everyone can make it. I know some people already gave their heads up that they might not be able to make it. And then just as like a quick preview, we're gonna have a pretty busy September. I think there have been a few things alluded to, the ADA study. There's a LoCIP grant to be considered. At some point, we'll be discussing the sidewalk projects, water issues, as well as Ordinance 60. And I think it was originally intended to possibly do Ordinance 60 this month, but with everything going on, we kind of shuffled the board. So Vice Chair and I both have a copy of the draft. We can obviously send it to the rest of the council just to keep their eyes peeled on things, but expect probably September and going into October could have a good amount of business to move forward leading up to the budget season. So, and that's it for me. So, is there any other petitions or comments? All right, seeing none, we will move to item 15, public list participation on any subject in the jurisdiction of the town council with a 3-minute limit. If you're in the audience, you can approach the table. And state your name and address, and if you're online, you can hit the raise hand function or *9 if you're on a mobile device. Going once, going twice. Item 16, I entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:43 p.m.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Murray. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you. Be well.